Alright, I'm back again, and boy, do I have some stuff to talk about. In the past week, let's kick it off and talk about good old Cracker Barrel. Now, there's a lot of people going around saying what they did was woke, and yeah, changing the peg game around the wording to use like remove ignoramus, which is kind of woke, but overall, the whole rebranding is not woke. That gets into people throwing around words without knowing what they mean, devaluing the word, and there's going to be more on that to come when I switch to my next topics. But it wasn't overall woke. What this is good old corporatism. If you look up the three biggest owners of Cracker Barrel, they're places like they're investment firms like BlackRock. And basically what they did, they came in and they started cheapening up the food, which was not particularly great to begin with, and then people quit going. This is per things that I've heard from not just my own personal experiences, but everyone I know has quit going because they said the portions are down, the quality is down, the prices are up. And let's face it, at least in my area, the Cracker Barrels were never really that particularly great. They were, in my opinion, about on par with Shoney's, which is a big thing here in the Southeast. And Shoney's food is mediocre at best, although decent. They have a good salad bar and desserts. I think they had a strawberry pie that's really good, and a hot fudge sundae that if you're like me and trying to keep your sugar intake under 100%, you can't touch that thing. But it's good. But really, when I think about the menu at Cracker Barrel, there's never been this one particular thing I really want when I go there. Never have I had that one thing that stood out to me. At least with Shoney's, you get the salad bar or get a dessert. There was nothing like that with Cracker Barrel. Really and truthfully, what made the place appealing was the whimsy of having of the ambiance. Not only did you have the store, but you had all of the old items on the walls and everything else, and in the colder months, you had the fire. I mean, and at night, you had the little oil lamps. That's what made Cracker Barrel. The food itself, in my opinion, was not readily worth the weights you would have to take. But in my last experience, of course, even at that point, this was 3 years ago, and the dining room was only half full, and this was at peak dinner time. So yeah, this has been ongoing for a while, cheapening the overall quality of the food, the service, and everything else. And it got to the point where people weren't going like they used to, and their idea was, hey, let's refresh it, let's rebrand it. And it's literally not what anyone wanted. They like, by and large, people, even myself, like the overall brand. We just want the food to be worth it. That's why people quit going. And that's why these actions are by the powers that be at Cracker Barrel are completely, totally nenarded. Now, I did mention earlier about people throwing around words that don't know what they mean and devaluing them. Let's talk about socialism and fascism, shall we? Anytime I question Trump, and this is including by my own family, I get referred to as being a socialist. Even if I'm talking about wanting to reduce the size of the government, get the government out of your business, cut taxes, blah, blah, blah. For some reason, the right want to call me a socialist. The people on the left, they want to call me a fascist. When literally both socialism and fascism require government involvement, government seizing the means of production, increased taxes, things along those lines. That's basically socialism. Now, with fascism, you get what's called, it's socialism, but you have a nationalistic element to it. It's National Socialism, in which basically not only does the government seize the means of production, but you have the strong sense of nationalism, the strong military, the strong this and that. Boy, does that sound familiar? Because in the past week, Trump has announced 10% ownership in Intel, with plans to take ownership in more businesses. That's socialism. Oh, and he's pushing to have the military being used as police. Boy, I thought that was actually unconstitutional to use the military as police on American soil. I do believe that's the case. I will most definitely have to post a link to that. If I'm right or if I'm wrong, there will be a link in the description to clarify that. But now he's talking about, he signed an executive order making it a mandatory 1-year sentence if you are burning the American flag in protest. Boy, if only the Supreme Court would rule on something like that in 1989 in Texas versus Johnson, in which they said, yes, it is protected speech. Burning the flag is protected speech. They basically said hate speech in and of itself is protected speech. And this has been, before you say, well, this can be challenged in the Supreme Court again. Yeah, it's possible, but you have to remember here, just a few years ago, the Supreme Court actually is in Trump's first term, I believe it was, the Supreme Court said that, reaffirmed that yes, even hate speech is protected speech. I believe it was around the, Charlottesville, Virginia Klan rally. They say Klan rally, but it was the American Nazi Party, basically. And they said that yes, that is protected speech, even if it's deemed vile, it's protected. So there is a precedence, even with members of the current Supreme Court, and the majority of the American Supreme Court as is, that pretty well indicates how they would rule on this if it were to go back to the Supreme Court again for a review after they've to see if they would overturn the 1989 decision. There is a good chance that the decision would stand. So all this time you're throwing around these words without knowing what they mean. You devalue them. And when you have actual examples to go off of, and I'm not just talking about, I don't like what he said, he's a fascist, he's a socialist, blah, blah, blah. There have been so many times Trump has been called a socialist or a fascist when what he said was absolutely neither. Like talking about getting rid of the Department of Education, they wanted to call him fascist for that, when that's not fascism. But they sure did throw that word around, and now you're getting actual examples of National Socialism, and the people who complain about socialism are quiet. A lot of the people that complain about socialism are church mouse quiet. By the same token, you have the nationalist side of National Socialism coming into play, and a lot of the people that were complaining about fascism, church mouse silent. Make it make sense. And maybe it's just their favorite influencers are being whatever, paid off whatever, and being quiet. Maybe they're not being told by the influencers and the news media to be upset. Maybe that's all it is. I don't know. What I do know is, there's a good chance I'm never going to have kids at this point. If I ain't done it by now, there's a good chance I'm not going to. I'm not getting any better looking. My personality is not getting any better. So unless I become independently wealthy to the point someone decides they just absolutely are in love with me, it ain't looking so good. But that don't mean I don't know people with kids, and that don't mean I have family members even with kids. And that doesn't mean I don't want to try to make the world a better place, to have it more free, where they can have more opportunities than I have to be successful. I want that for the future generations. I want America to last. I want America to prosper, and taxing the people and calling them tariffs on foreign countries, which we wind up paying. See Home Depot saying they're raising prices because of the tariffs, isn't going to cut it. I want politicians that are serious about cutting spending. I want politicians that are serious about protecting freedoms and everything of the sorts. So yeah, I'm being more vocal about this than I have been in the past. I'm getting more pissed off about stuff like this than I have been in the past. But it's because right now, there seems to be a vacuum of people wanting to stand up and say anything, to do anything. And yeah, my voice is not that great. And my platform, it doesn't have much in the way of reach. I'll be lucky if 6 people watch this video. But at least I'm doing something. I'm trying to do something. And not just that, I'm on social media. I'm trying to speak out against my local government from my local level on up. But getting people to even do more than a thumbs up or a heart on, a thumbs up on Facebook or a thumbs up on Twitter is almost impossible. Honestly, I am convinced moving mountains is easier than trying to get people to sign a petition even. If it seemingly requires the slightest modicum of effort, they're not interested. Yeah, maybe they'll run their mouth and throw around buzzwords that they don't know the meaning of, but anything meaningful to bring people together on common causes, they aren't doing it. Oh, well, I'm going to have this has gone on way long enough. I'm going to most definitely have some links down in the description and let me know what you think. Later.